Dario, how you doing? How you been? How's your day been?
Good, bro. You just wrapped up work. Good to talk to you. How's it going?
Yeah, I think it was the last time I was there with you was about a month ago, right?
Yeah, it's
We
nice to
we did
have
a,
you.
we did a little mini holy supper.
Nah, we don't do that.
Oh, no. I don't. Do you miss any of that? Do you miss some of the holy supper stuff? Or at least the festivity around August?
All I miss is the puestitos. That's it, bro.
The food, right? Los puestos,
Yeah, the little toys, Dragon Ball Z toys,
the Dragon Ball Z
bootlegs.
toys. Little. Uh, you were never in choir during that time, were you?
Yeah, I was, but I hated how strict they were about it, so I didn't really show up to all the practices. But yeah.
So I'd like to start just to get a good idea, like how your life has been, how your life was back in GDL before you moved to Atlanta, because your time in Guadalajara was kind of short compared to your time here in the States, especially in Atlanta.
The way that I see it is I lived in Guadalajara until I was about 9 or 10, so that was uh when I put it in my LLDM years, that was half of my life. So, and the other half was from like 10 to about 20, more like 18, but yeah, about another 8 to 10 years. And so it was half of my life was in Guadalajara, half of my other life was in Atlanta. And then from 20 and on, that's where I became free. I got out around 24, 25, but but I think I started changing a lot after 18. So between 20 and on, it was a transition period.
So can you tell us more about that first transition, before you moved to Atlanta, that time that you were your first half of your church life?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it. What do you want to know about it specifically? In Guadalajara, I was born in since I mean this whole video. I think for the people that are watching, we're gonna discuss my experience in LDM, and then outside of LDM. So I think what's relevant to anybody that watches the video is specifically my relationship to the family that runs the cult or LDM, and my relationship uh, to the people that in general that run that organization. So yeah, in Guadalajara, I think the most relevant thing to say is that I was born into a family that was very close to the leadership, and because of that, my dad being as they say, best friends with the apostle's son. Apostle was as everyone knows, the leader of the church. Uh, I actually grew up in his house, in Nathan's house, in Pablo Valdez. I gotta look up the address. It's out of my mind now. But if everyone remembers, there's Pablo Valdez. There's the houses of all the sons of Samuel, and I was basically born into that house and raised in that house. Nathan lived in the second floor with his kids and his wife, and my father and my family, we lived in the first floor.
And how
And
was
that's
Nathan during that time? Do you
uh,
remember? Do you have memories of him?
to me he was just like an uncle or like a family friend. Like we would go out to eat. Like I remember we go to Chuck E. Cheese's. We would go to restaurants. We would go on family vacations together, just his family and my family alone. Um, Sometimes my dad would call me from LA, like he was on the phone with Nathan's son, and they would ask me what video games I wanted because they were gonna get them from me and stuff like that. So it was like we're like a family. We lived together. I didn't see them all year because Nathan and his family were always out of town. They were located, I don't know, different states in the United States. And the only
As a
time that I saw
minister?
them, yes, a minister. The only time I saw them was during the celebrations, which like February, August, etc. So like once or twice per year, sometimes a little more, but yeah, it was just like every now and then. And when I saw them, it was just going out to eat, just playing around, just hanging out. They didn't really have too many serious memories with him and his family.
That includes Aloraim too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously with his dad.
yeah. We were just like since my mom's family is related to the Zamoras. The Rodriguez and the Zamoras are some of what they call like the founding families in the organization.
Hmm.
So everyone's related really from the first families. And Adoraim is actually my uncle through his mom. Um, I got the family tree there somewhere. I don't really care much for it, but the point is that they were aware of that, and he saw me as a friend because of the father being best friends with my dad, and us living in their house and having that close relationship. Plus, on the other side, it was like we were blood related in a way, even if it was like fourth, fifth, sixth generation. Like we didn't care. We were just looking for ways to be closer to each other. You know. So, I mean, that's how the Mexican tradition is. Like you count people that are even further away from your family tree as cousins. You don't see that too much in the U.S., but that's what it
Yeah.
was. That was my relationship with them. I had relationships with many other ministers. There's a lot of ministers in my family. I'm related to a lot of the old families. So, yeah, that's what I remember. That was the first 10 years of my life, just hanging out with everybody. Just not, on one hand, I didn't take things too seriously. I was just trying to hang out with the people that I knew.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it was what everybody went through, the indoctrination of telling us that Samuel was heaven on earth, that he was special, that we had to take care of him, we had to take care of his family. But admittedly, I didn't suffer too much because I I got to have fun times with all of these people, so I got to know their human side.
Yeah. I think
Anyway,
people forget that a lot, that, you know, we see them, at least in my time, back when I was in church, and my faith and its role in how I perceived the apostle and his family was like, they're just kind of above us in some sense. Uh,
yeah,
and once you get to meet them, it's obviously a little different, but you don't know them the way someone like you who grew up, at least in their house,
yeah,
sees them in a completely different aspect. So the experience is different. It's
yeah.
almost
I
unique in
think
a way.
me seeing them humanly was very personal, because my mom, my parents, my dad, like all these people around me tried to indoctrinate me. They did, just like anybody else. I was indoctrinated, but they failed because when they would tell me that, for example, that I was special, I would say, no, he's fucking not. He's just my cousin. He's just another kid.
Yeah.
And I remember one time that I went to visit us to Atlanta recently, like what was it, 2014?
Oh,
2014.
we went to
Remember?
Florida.
Yeah, my mom. No, and
Yeah,
yeah,
this
before
was
we went to
March of
Florida with him,
2014.
it was all of us. I invited you guys to come along with us. Before we went to the Florida trip in Atlanta, we were walking downtown, and my mom was behind us. And I remember I made this comment to you. She was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, all of you should walk behind him so he can get used to like being like the leader or whatever." And I looked at her and I was like, "What are you talking about? Like we're just friends. Like we don't. There's nothing going on here. There's no politics." But everywhere else that he went, people didn't see him the way that I saw him. He wasn't just a friend. He wasn't just a cousin. People saw him as a leader. People saw him as the next guy. That's the way that Nathan was raised. That's the way that Samuel was raised. Everyone in that family, like everyone saw them through that lenses of indoctrination. And I specifically, even though I was indoctrinated, I did have to go to studies in Guadalajara every day. I had to go to church every day, and our whole life was church. But um, on the other hand, I got to just like live with them and just be friends with them, and ignore that indoctrination in a way. It wasn't until I got to Atlanta where I felt like the force and the pressure, of indoctrination. Really, I'm not saying it was all smooth in Guadalajara growing up. It wasn't perfect, but I think I had a benefit there. Like getting to enjoy the good things that these kids had. Like living in this house, like I don't come from a rich family. My parents are come from humble beginnings, and it's because they've been there for so long that my family hasn't had a chance to work on themselves. Like everything they've given, everything they've done for the Joaquines.
How far did they
So
go back? Your mom and dad, what generation?
my grandparents through my dad have been there for 50 years, 50 something. So they got there during Samuel's time, like right after Aaron died. they got there. And my mom's family, the Rodriguez, they've been there since Aaron, since I don't know exactly the date, probably the 40s, 1940s, maybe the 1930s.
80
late.
years.
So I don't have the exact date. The Zamores have been there just as long, and like I said, like we go way back with them. Yeah, my great grandfather, is it great grandfather? Yeah, my great grandfather Ramon Rodriguez, who was a pastor there, and I think he was demoted or something. But anyway, like him and Julian Zamora were like the right and left hand of Aaron. So anyway, like I don't want to get too much into that, but my family has been there for that long. I feel like they've wasted their potential. Instead of working for themselves, they work towards this family's and this organization's well-being. So what I was getting at is that we don't have a lot. We don't, they were hardworking people, talented people, but they gave everything to this organization. So because we don't have a lot, on the even it's weird because it sounds like I'm criticizing them, but I was grateful. I don't know if I'm still grateful, but I was grateful in a way because I got to grow up in a good house. Like growing up in Nathan's house, I grew up comfortably, and I had toys and I had food and I had clothing, and it was all because these people shared it with my dad because they're friends. So it sounds like I'm grateful, but on the other hand, it's like we're taken advantage of, because my dad could have, my dad ran businesses for Nathan. He could have ran this business for himself.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this guy never really paid him accordingly. They don't really pay people accordingly.
They don't pay people.
No.
Even him being like, he's considered like a best friend of Nathan.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't know he's never paid him accordingly. He never treated him. Like my dad still visits him in prison to this day, and yeah, my dad still struggles. He has to come. He'll be in Guadalajara for like half the year serving Nathan, and then the other half he'll be working construction in Atlanta. With $0 in his pocket.
I remember working with him a couple of times. I took a trip with him from Atlanta to Guadalajara for the 50th anniversary of Samuel, and he would tell me just how happy he was doing that. He's like, I'm always, it's a blessing to be so close to the family. I know I work a couple of months, I'm here working, and the other time I'm just putting my time for him, for Samuel, helping out with Nathan, whatever he wants. And it's the level of brainwashing is intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So indoctrination was always there, like I was saying, but I was just naturally as a kid. I said no. Like I would get in arguments with my mom. She would say that Nathan Samuel, the leader of the time, could see our hearts, and I would argue with her, and I would say no, he can't. I still thought he was special. I still loved him, admired him.
You still saw him as an apostle.
All the emotions that they told me to
everything,
feel.
Yeah.
But there was a me that would say not that. Like he's not
too much.
Yeah, he's not that powerful, So that's where the me that questioned and doubted started, as a kid, and I would ask my mom a lot of questions about the doctrine. The doctrine I felt was never straightforward. The rules were always just bending at will, and yeah, I mean that's my childhood there. By the time I was 9 and 10, that's when we moved to Atlanta, and that's where I met you guys. We moved there. I don't know if I've told you this before. I might have. We moved there because my dad had an argument with Nathan's wife.
That's all you told me. You told me surface level stuff, and I was like, okay, I get it. He's doing his own thing.
I don't know.
Own thing.
I don't know the details, but all I know from me overhearing conversations as a kid was that my dad would manage all of Nathan's money as back then, pre 2001. I don't know if all of it, but let me rephrase that. His business, two businesses, the paleteria, they would sell ice cream popsicles.
Yeah.
And then another one was buses, a bus route there in Guadalajara. And my dad would manage that. So I believe that was all his money. I'm not sure, but that money my dad managed. So I understand, and again, I might be wrong because I was just a kid and I was just overhearing conversations. But from what I understand, my dad would manage all the money, and it seems like Alma didn't like that, and it seems like a lot of people didn't like that because they had to go to him for money, to my dad. So So I don't know. There was jealousy. Like from what I understand, is that there was jealousy and that they disliked my dad. They started saying that he robbed them, and Nathan didn't say this. Alma said this, and I think again I was a kid, but the people definitely who I heard these things from were like my dad's friends, like the people that are Nathan's friends that were supposed to have like Nathan's back and my dad's back because they grew up together. They turned on my dad. That one's a fact. And they started calling him a thief, and they started calling me a thief as a kid. Imagine like 9-year-old me walking down Provincia, and everyone's like, "Mira, ahí va el ratero." And I was like, "The fuck? I thought we were homies, you know?" So
I didn't know that.
yeah, that's how they treated me, and that really hurt me a lot. But who cares, you know? And bitter people, jealous people. So
Do you think
that's
they were
why.
jealous of the spot that you and your dad had, your family had?
According to the cult, you know, politics, like they were jealous of the closeness that my dad had, and they were jealous that he had, you know, that bond with Nathan, and he had the
And
trust.
that followed to Atlanta too.
Yeah,
We see that
that actually did. Yeah, we can talk about that in a sec. But anyway, there's parts that I'm not sure about. There's parts that I saw, and
awesome.
I was mistreated. I really was mistreated by all these friends, and these are people that now, as I got older, you know, like not now, everyone hates me there now, but you know, after I moved to Atlanta when I was like 14, 18 years old, I would see them in the street, and you know, if I say their names, everyone knows them. These people would hug me and say I was their, you know, family friend, but no, these people are just snakes, you know. Anyway, I know Alma also had an issue with my dad in a way. I'm not sure how far it went, but it got so bad that my dad couldn't stand being in Guadalajara anymore. He said, "Screw this, let's go to somewhere else to start it anew." So we moved to Atlanta, and I remember that my dad, because my dad's sister lived there. So yeah, we ended up leaving to Atlanta. I remember Samuel would send his secretaries to tell my dad not to leave. And Nathan would send people to tell him to stay. He would call them. He would send him messages. They didn't want to leave, but we ended up leaving anyway. And
that's intense. That's interesting because this is coming directly from the apostle.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. That's I think my dad hasn't always been as brainwashed as he is now. You know, I feel like brainwashing is a, you know, a wave. Like it comes and goes, and there's emotions in you that will make you fight even the programming. Let's call it that. So I think not always has he put them above everything. There has been times in his life where he put himself first, and he put like how people were treating him hurt him so badly that he ran away from the cult, from the organization. So we ended up going to Atlanta, met you guys, and like you said, that followed us there. People there hated on us there too. You know, like Romualdo, the minister. I got a funny story about him.
For the ones that don't know, that's Benjamin
Aguilar, Romualdo Aguilar, minister of La Luz del Mundo. So he had beef with my mom because my mom tried to teach him how to do avivamientos properly. Because avivamientos are revivals where people are supposedly asking for the Holy Spirit, speaking tongues, all that mess. I don't believe in any of that bullshit. In or outside of LDM, it's bullshit. But my mom tried to get smart with him in a good way. You know, like she was like, "Hey, brother, this is how we do in Guadalajara," and people hate that. So this guy put her on the spot, started beef with her, got the ministers in that area back then responded to Samuel Gray. Samuel Gray was what was it called?
Pastor jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, my mom went to him. He was supposed to help her, and that guy he was scared of Romualdo, so he ended up doing whatever Romualdo said. So they made my mom's life a living hell for a couple of years. When we first imagine we get there because my dad's already butthurt about everyone betraying him within the organization, and then everyone there's treating us like shit too. And actually, they treated me like shit, but that's another story. Like, you remember the kids would bully me just because I came somewhere else.
They'll get physical.
Yeah, I remember I got my ass kicked the first week in Atlanta. But anyway, regarding the cult, like my mom got really mistreated. She asked for help in the structure of the church that is supposed to flow to assist whoever needs help, and that didn't work. So the only way they stopped was when my mom went to see Joaquin, and Joaquin was like, "Oh, you know, these are family friends, you know, like these are cool people. Let me back them up." And he backed us up.
But this was only until he was moved to.
A little before that, he started helping us out. Like I think he was in Chicago or something. Mom had to like call him all the way out there, And I think even Nason, I found out later that Nason called Romualdo and was like, if you're messing with Pepe, you're messing with me. So I don't know if I ever told you that.
You did tell me that.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is these people backed us up, and then they started. Everyone in Atlanta, like all the members that are like I said that throughout my childhood,
Throughout your childhood, they
they
changed
were
your
like hugging
face.
me, taking dominicales, and they were like, "We love you, bro. You know, you're cool." Like these exemplary members of Atlanta take us out too.
Did the
You know.
same thing. Once Uciel
Yeah.
came in,
And then when Uciel came there, all these people were like, "Oh no, brother, we didn't mean to do all that." The minister told us. When I mean that, I haven't explained. These people also, you know, whatever Romualdo told them to do, they would do. If they said shut the door, like on Susan and her family, they would shut the temple door in our face. They even signed a document about a bunch of people from Atlanta, the members. They got together, signed a document saying that we're enemies of the election, enemies of the church.
I heard that's.
So it was a lot. It was a lot like in Guadalajara, we were rejected. We got to Atlanta, we were rejected, and the minister started a whole conspiracy against us, a bunch of bullshit. Because back then we were still firm believers. You know, I was. I was just a kid, and this guy just, you know, he was picking on my parents. Anyway, one day Romualdo called me to an office by myself, highly inappropriate. He didn't do anything weird.
Inappropriate.
But, no, not at all. But yes, in a different way. Like he shouldn't mess with somebody's kid and try to like turn them against their parents. You know, he told me, he was like, you know, if your parents ever mess with you, let me know. We can call the cops on your parents. I was like, you know, like, excuse me, like, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? And I was aware of the beef, but I just played dumb and I said,
yeah.
I got nothing to say. But this a grown man calling
a grown ass man, a minister.
Yeah. Honestly, fucking loser, but whatever. Yeah, and then Uciel got moved there, and I don't know where all these people, he called, I remember the first thing he did was call everyone to his office that had written
that had signed the document.
And they all said, no, we're sorry, the minister told us to do it, our bad. And then all these people acted like this had never happened. Uciel was cool with us, you know, he treated me okay, you know, I was around 14 then. About 5 years have passed. You know, it was a pretty bad 4 years when Romualdo was there. What can I tell you? After that, it was just, I was very focused on choir.
You became focused in church during this time.
Yeah.
You got really into church. I remember this.
That's why
you got into choir. You received the Holy Spirit at 13. Then you got baptized. You didn't get presented because Uciel said, well, he already got baptized and received. You know he's going to take the next step.
He said specifically, he said, because I had already received, I didn't need to get presented, because he told everyone, oh, you know, this guy, you know, like, you're supposed to come tell the church that you want to be part of church, you know, that you chose God. But if God already chose that for you, you don't have a say so. And back then I thought it was beautiful, but it's just manipulation, really. It's just like,
it is.
You know,
but when you go back,
they want to make you feel special.
The lips from, you know, Joaquin, that plays a big role in church. It's like,
yeah, even when I received the Holy Spirit, like, he had been on the phone with Samuel like a minute before I received, and he came, and then Uciel came to talk to me right after the phone call. So all these things make you feel special, like being close to Samuel, being close to Nathan, being close to Uciel, like. But at the end of the day, you know, like I told you, there was a part of me that they respect them, but then there was the me that was like, they're just people, and I like them. We get along, you know, and I didn't hate them, but I also didn't kiss their ass like a lot of people. You know, like I was just grateful for you got to see it from my point of view. It's like everyone in the church treated me like shit in Guadalajara and in Atlanta, and these people were the only ones that had my back. A lot of people like, they focus so much on just going against the Joaquin and saying, you know, they're trash.
The name itself.
And they are. I mean, overall, like the manipulation, the lying, and the scamming, and everything they've done, it is trash. But a lot of the shit that the members do on their own. A lot of the shit that the ministers do on their own. And even the ministers go against the Joaquines. You get me? It's politics.
It is politics.
Like, no doubt about it. Like, I'm telling you, Nathan literally had to call Romualdo. Uciel literally had to stop Romualdo from messing with members, because they did it on their own. You know, like, there's layers. There's layers.
And I think, unfortunately, the bench members, even myself, at a lot of times, I'm we're unaware of the backstage
Politics.
politicking going on.
Politics.
Because it is a lot of backstage politicking going on, but we're recommended not to listen to that. Like, that's not for you. They're humans. Only the apostle is perfect. Whatever, etc., etc. So it's almost like it's non-existent. But when
Yeah.
you start talking about, it's prevalent. It's huge going on even
Yeah.
right now.
It matters a lot because it's part of the environment. Like there's not just one negative thing in the organization. It's not just one player. There's a lot of people. Even if the Joaquins were snatched out of the picture right now, you still got a big mess in there.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty environment at all. It's toxic. But anyway, going back to Atlanta and around Lucille's time, like what happened after that? He left. After he left, we got who? Guillermo Victorin.
Guillermo Victorin.
He was cool too because he was a family friend also. Supposedly, he was cool with my dad. I never had any issues with any of these guys. Then we got Carlos. Throughout Uciel, Victorin, and Carlos Montemayor, I was in choir and I was going out to what they call the labor, right, to preach. I really love to preach. I actually love to preach more than I like choir, and I love singing.
Yeah.
But preaching to people was the main thing for me because I really wanted to help people. I really wanted to bring people to the truth, to the light, to save their soul, etc.
Yeah, I remember having conversations. We'll have conversations. We have our normal conversations about daily shit, about regular stuff, but we would have the trust in each other, be like asking questions about the doctrine and trying to figure out how do we become better preachers. Like, you were obviously the better one, and I would always ask you questions about the doctrine that didn't sit well with me. I wish I could know a better way to approach it, preach it, defend it. And you're the guy I'll go up to and talk to about it because you were really into this. You preached, you took prayers, you took consecrations, prayers of fives, services. And it was just like, and for me, I looked up to you. I looked up to the people that I could tell were really trying. They put their heart, because from my perspective, because you grew up here and I grew up with you, we were friends and we still are. The way you embodied, in a way, the doctrine of LDM was very strong during this time that I admired it. I'm like, I gotta up my game too, because I want to do the same thing that I felt the same way that you did, that purpose.
When you say embody, you're talking about preaching specifically, right? Preaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Preaching.
Yeah, I loved it. Literally, like when I preach, I really wanted people to feel my emotions. I didn't care about knowing the most. I didn't, like that was not my goal. It was just about being humble, being honest, and making people feel something. And I think that's a human thing. I don't think that's it's not a religious thing. It's not back then I thought it was, I thought it was LDM exclusive. A lot of people think it's spiritual. Like for me, just human emotions and the ability to share those with people, and you can connect saying the simplest thing. But anyway, back then, there's all the drama. I think you're referring to that too. We all got a little dramatic. Yeah, that's what I like doing. I like doing it in the church and I like doing it outside. And I was also part of choir, as you know, we're there together. That's what I did. And then with Carlos Montemayor, I had a lot of experiences with him because he's a very manipulative guy, and he wanted everyone to just do whatever he said. I remember I told you one time, like I said, right now, there's forces that go against each other, right, in there. One time my dad told me that Nathan himself told him that Carlos Montemayor is his enemy. So it's like a lot of people, to hear this, they will be shocked because they're like, how can a minister be an enemy? He's not the only one. I can name dozens. I can name, all these people that you think are buddies with the Joaquines. The Joaquines literally hate these guys. And the Joaquines sometimes even hate each other. Like literally, like my whole life, I grew up hearing about Benjamin against Nason. And Benjamin himself would say crap, and Nason himself would say things about his. It's sometimes it's rivalry, sometimes just brotherly stuff, but sometimes it's very serious stuff.
And that makes sense. If people really did pay attention during the explanations, or especially during the tiempo de llamamiento, you can kind of feel the tension if you really were looking into it, not just whatever was flowing out of their mouths about church, election, but you can kind of tell.
Yeah, and the reason I bring up Carlos is because he was a force on his own. Like
Hey,
now that I
what
mentioned that he was that Nathan seeing him as an anti, you know, mm,
what do they call it? He walked to the beat of his own drum.
antagonist. Yeah, he did, and the thing about him is that he wanted everyone to follow him, and I didn't. I would quit. I remember go to the labor with this other guy. That you remember him? He lived behind the temple. He was a good friend of mine, this brother, and
Yeah.
he would be the chauffeur, and I would be in the back with Carlos. And Carlos would say all this mess, like try to question me, try to trick me, try to get me to seem like a fool, and he always hated it. I don't think I was wise. To me, like it was just be honest, like I said. And when I said I didn't know, he hated it. When I said a good answer, but it was one that he didn't think about, he hated it. I remember one time he was asking me something very specific that I'll never forget. He was asking me, what would I do if David tried to take my wife, etc. And he started reading the story of what happened to this man.
Oh, King David and
Yeah, how David took somebody's wife, basically. To sum it up, I don't really care for the
Basti, I
scriptures,
believe. Yeah.
but that's a summary. And I said, what are you getting at? I was like, what kind of question is that? Like, I know, according to us, members, the equivalent to David was Samuel. And I said, what does it matter about what happened back then? Like, this guy now wouldn't never do that to me. But it's like, I feel like this guy was throwing me hints and I just didn't know it. But he wanted me to say it was okay. He wanted me to say it was okay for the apostle or for the man of God to take my wife. But I said, my answer was not that it was okay or that it wasn't. My answer was that would
Why
never
does it
happen.
matter?
I literally said it will never happen, and I was wrong. So it makes me wonder why, Carlos, if you're listening to this, why the hell are you asking me this? Anyway, that was my interaction with this guy. Like, he gave me a lot of trouble. He tried to put me a prueba and then try to extend it. A prueba means on a trial period because I did something that the doctrine doesn't allow because I had a girlfriend.
And this
And he
trial
hated
period,
that. And
it varies. Either you're not allowed to do spiritual activities, and that's usually most of it, uh, or every once in a while you can't even do anything. But it's usually you can't take prayer, anything spiritual related, singing songs. That's my understanding of what trial prueba was.
yeah, it's just whatever they want it to be. Honestly, they bend the rules. Honestly, and yeah, after Carlos, I got so tired of him that I started traveling. I had already done some traveling before him. But after him, I started doing traveling again, and I moved to San Antonio. I had already lived there before, and then I went to California, and I stayed with family, my best friend's family, who's also a minister, Gerardo Lopez. They're very good to me. To this day, I'm grateful to them. But they're also very,
Very into church.
they're fanatics, when it comes to the election. Honestly, like I don't know how else to put it. But they treated me pretty well. Cool people. After that, while I was there, that's when Samuel died. Samuel died. I got up. I left California. Went straight to Guadalajara. Actually, I left before he died. Like I saw and I heard that he was sick.
This was probably around November, right?
Yeah, October, I think, late October, early November. So we left early. So anyway, we were there like the whole month before. We flew out there. One of another Joaquin flew with me there. Not the direct family, but the cousins. And we flew to Guadalajara. We saw everything. We heard everything. I chose to stay there. I got married. And then while I was married, that's a couple years had passed. I'm just skipping.
Before we get there, if you don't mind, Dario, could we talk a little bit about during the days of the manifestation?
Yeah, there was a mess.
Because there were certain things you said to me that at the time didn't really, like even you didn't really understand. At the time, you were asking me questions about, because I stayed with you in Guadalajara in Betel for like 2 days at your parents' house. And this was when people were talking about, we weren't supposed to talk about who the next apostle was, right? You're not supposed to talk about if you had dreams or testimonies. You write it down and you give it to the minister of your local church, or in this case, La Caseta, and you just keep it to yourself. But I remember you asking me that question. Do you know who it is?
I remember that. I remember asking you that.
You asked me, and I'm like, I don't. And we talked about how you're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah, I was probably going by the programming because that doesn't sound like
We were going by the
that's okay.
programming,
Yeah.
but later on we talked about how was it that creo que el grupo Jericho was telling people, hey, let's get ready. You know, the apostle is going to be announced.
It wasn't them. It was the ministers that were getting everybody ready.
It was the ministers.
Yeah, it was the ministers themselves. They were saying, and yeah, I remember all that.
Do you remember?
I don't have much to say about that. It's just what I can say is it was a mess. There was a lot of politics. Ministers were contradicting each other. Um, that's it. I mean, Nathan took over. And there was always signs that he was going to take over. There's
How did you
specifically a
feel
book.
about that?
I was confused, a little grateful in a way because that was the family friend. You know, that was the uncle. That was the guy that was closest to me out of the whole family. But also, it just felt weird. It felt weird. Like I said, there's always been a me that always question things, and I don't know exactly what questions I had. I don't remember them, but I do know that it felt
It just
weird.
didn't feel right.
Yeah, it didn't feel right. Specifically, I was gonna say there were signs that hey, he was gonna be the one. There was a book that was put out there when Adoraim turned 14. They gave supposedly to the closest people to that family, to the Nason's family, they gave them a picture book of Adoraim. And in the first page, I think it was the first or the last page, it said, Aarón engendró a Samuel, Samuel engendró a Nason, Nason engendró a Adoraim. This was way years before 2014. Yeah, years before. And then also Adoraim's presentation, people talk about that a lot. Very obvious, like nobody had a special, presentation like that. One time we went to Florida, now going back to that, remember we were on the road. It was the Lopez, you and me, and we saw a sign. I think it was Mormons or something. Something about going to hell. Call here.
Yeah, call here.
I called and I started preaching to them, and the guy was like, "Oh, I put him on the speaker." You guys thought it was funny because I actually was like running circles around this guy, and you guys.
You're running circles around this guy.
We thought we were smart. We thought it was neat, and then we got to Florida, and Adoraim was already there with his homies in the hotel, and I started telling them about this, and they're like, "We don't care." He's like, "I don't read the Bible." So I remember what he said. He's like, "Don't worry, when I go to labor, I'm gonna take you with me." Like he would always say weird stuff like that. Like who says that?
Yeah.
I grew up with all these kids. I grew up with all the Joaquin kids. It's like he knows. I'm not saying that.
How do you think they're programmed? Because obviously you're close to them, but you're not close enough to know how that functions. Like, hey, this is what has to be done. I'm pretty sure there's got to be some conversation.
I think they're programmed, brainwashed, as they would say, but just in a different level. Like we're programmed to be followers. They're programmed to be leaders.
Yes.
So I think they believe it just as much as we do. I think they do believe they're special. Do they question? I mean, we questioned it and we still did it. That's my perception. Again, as someone that grew up in their house, as someone that was their friend, as someone that heard everything. Like, and a lot, it's coming out now in the documents. A lot of people that were close to them are saying, like, sometimes they would say, I think the girls, Sima and Lldm, they said something to somebody saying, we see him as a dad. And is that not true? Like, did they not see him? Of course,
Yeah.
He's like I saw him as an uncle.
It's human nature.
And people treat it like, oh, that means she's lying. That means she knows. That means she knows he's not an apostle. No, she still believes he's an apostle. Just like I believe he was an apostle. But that was also.
But you also saw him like an uncle.
Exactly, and that doesn't mean I'm wrong or I'm right. It doesn't mean there's the indoctrination, and then there's me. And I think so in that sense I understand them. I'm not saying they're good people. I'm not saying they're bad people. I think they're also indoctrinated and programmed, but on another level. Like they're programmed to lead. They're programmed to run things. They're programmed to own things, to take advantage of people. And there was a lot of signs that it was going to go down this branch of the family tree. There were signs. I mean, it was a mess. 2014 was a mess. The whole coup, or whatever you want to call it, I don't really think. I think partly it was a coup, partly it was planned. We'll never know unless we hear it from their very own mouths or the people that were in the room.
What have you heard?
Not much. It's just
Much?
gossip. But I mean, I don't need to hear anything like when I got that book. That literally says stuff like that.
That's more than enough.
That
You're
like I said,
absolutely right.
like I don't have to be right about it. I don't have to. I'm not going around. Honestly, I don't give a shit about this whole organization anymore. I just telling the
Just
story.
telling us what you. Yep.
But it doesn't really matter to me which branch they were gonna go down and who's gonna be the next one and all that. Like at the end of the day, whether it's one or the other, it's still a toxic environment. I tell you, you could remove all the Joaquines, it's still a mess. Uh, yep. Fast forwarding to later, I got married. I had a kid, and that's when one day I was about I think 24, 25. I was in the kitchen and I just said to myself, I was sitting there by myself and I said, I don't believe in God or religion or any of this. I just in one instant, I said, this is not it. I wasn't even thinking about church. I was not even thinking about the apostle. Yes, I've always had, like I said, my personal doubts, but it was not about that in a weird way. I was not focusing on that. I was focusing on something bigger, myself, like a bigger question, deeper
Yeah.
question. And then I said, no, this is not for me. And automatically I was like, fuck LDM. I was like, fuck the election, the apostle, all that. I don't believe in none of that shit automatically. And I always say this to people, and people are like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm like, I guess, but it just goes to show that there's always more within us than just the programming.
Yeah.
It's not linear. Like there can be different things at play, and this one was bigger. This thought of mine was bigger. This question of mine was bigger, and automatically it was just like, I don't care about these guys. I don't care about any of this. And I called who was my wife at that point, my partner. I said, hey, I don't believe any of this, and she started crying because she said, wow, I never thought that you were gonna say this, because she's like, I don't believe in any of this either. But she was talking specifically about the cult. I was talking about God and religion. And then we started helping each other, having conversations. We decided we were going to come out to our families, and we planned it for months, for like a couple of months. I forgot exactly how many. We held it in until we decided to share with her family, and her family they're also ministers in LDM. And they said they were going to be cool about it. They told us one thing in our face and then turned around and told everyone that I was a snake. And because of that, I never saw them the same. I already had issues with them because, not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone, I'm not perfect either. So they just never really liked me. And when I told them I was in LDM, and LDM isn't shit to me. It's just a particle. What I was trying to tell them is that, I'm not religious. I'm not, I don't care about any of this. I wasn't even aware of all the issues with LDM at that point. That's what people don't understand. I was not looking at the abuse. I was not thinking about what we know now. You get me? It was very innocent. It was very innocent. And innocently, I said, can you guys be cool with me? And they said no. They said they weren't going to be cool with me. I talked to my family too. My family also treated me horribly. I talked to my grandparents first. They started. My grandmother told my best friend that she would rather have him as a grandkid than me, and shit like that. My parents would just like make remarks to my ex and myself. It was just it was a lot. It was a hard time, a hard couple of years, because we stuck around, putting up with all of them for like a year or two, and then finally in 2019, basically I think we decided to up and leave LDM like around 2016, 2017. And I started doing research. That's when I started doing research about the cult and started communicating with people. That's when I realized it was a cult. Like not right away. Like I said, I left because of religion and God and all that stuff in general. But soon right after, like 2-3 months after, that's when I realized, oh, this is a cult. And they're treating me badly, So I was like, no, this is not cool. I was trying to get along with them. They're treating me badly. They're doing horrible things to people. They did horrible things to me that I didn't even realize. So I started doing venting. Started venting online between 2017 2019. I started venting. I started learning more and more and more. And that's when I found the subreddit. It was empty. Nobody there. Nobody was venting. I started venting there. People started venting. We started networking, supporting each other.
This was way back at what year again?
I think I'm not sure. 2016, 2017.
Okay.
It was like, yeah,
And it was
and
just, well, nobody was there, right? It was just you? You founded it, or?
it was a girl made it, a person made it, and she left it there and didn't think much of it, you know. So yeah, that's
And you find it. You found it, and you just
we.
started.
I would say we, because like I don't remember. I mean, I could have been the first one. Doesn't really matter. Like it was a couple of us who were just
Mhm.
posting there, talking to each other, like helping each other out, like talking shit about the cult, venting. I used to call it venting. And then with that meaning to, we started networking, helping each other out, and then that's where I started hearing about all the stories of abuse, and we started pinpointing the issues with this organization, and that's when I started right away. I think I was one of the first people to call it a cult, because I remember I would call it a cult out loud, and people would just say you're radical, you're crazy. So yeah, um, and then 2019, that's when everything popped within my circle, because people started treating me worse. Because at that point, Nathan was already being investigated, and he was
Mhm.
paranoid, and he was feeding so much hate into my family and my ex's family that they start. If they're already treating us bad, you know, before in 2019, it was just. I mean, the investigation was a blown out, situation. So this guy, it makes sense.
Before before he got arrested, what was he? What was it that he was doing? That he found that he knew that it was you that was talking all this.
Yeah, I don't think he knew. What do you
He
mean?
didn't know.
No,
So
I don't think
then,
he to say that I was saying. He knows about the blog, about the if you want to call that a subreddit, like
mhm.
court documents. It says, like, I've heard it from people that were close to him. I'm not sure if he knows it was me. I don't know how much they tell him while he's in prison. I know my dad visits him, but I don't think my dad would, as a best friend, I don't think he would be like, hey, my son, by the way, was one of the people
Yeah.
talking mad shit about you, and they networked, and
So
then
he just attacked you because he knew you were out through your dad, and he was like, "Nah,
he didn't
man."
attack me. Let me clarify that. He wasn't attacking me. He was attacking everyone that left the church. Okay?
People already knew who you were, though.
No, like my family just knew that I was out of the church.
It was your family. Okay.
No, I think until very, very recently that I've expressed it myself. Now
Hmm.
people know that I was one of the people writing things and networking and trying to create a support group. Okay, but back
Okay.
then nobody knew. Nobody knew. So there's no way. Like all they knew is that I was out, and Nathan was throwing all these people towards anyone that left. He will make a lot of horrible remarks about us. He can call us cancer and this and that and cut them off.
Ebola.
Yeah, you know the story. So Um, yeah, 2019, I couldn't bear it anymore. I think it was around May. We got up and left Guadalajara because they were treating us like shit, just to put it plainly. We moved to Puebla. In Puebla, I separated from my ex. That was after he got arrested. After he got arrested, that's when we separated. She went her way, I went mine. We're cool. We're co-parenting my kid. I still consider her family. We're still friends. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time. I feel like it's been what 5, 6 years in the works. Like when I say in the works, I mean myself. Like where I'm at now. Like I really don't. I care. I care about what goes on. Because that's where I come from. But that's not who I am.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is not linear. I've always been myself, and I am myself more now than ever. Back then, it was just they were trying to hold me back, and they couldn't. I feel like that's the same, for a lot of us. Um, yeah, I don't know what else you want to know about that part, but
How's it been now that you've been out? How's life? What was the experience first of the mental? I guess the question I'm trying to head with, how was your mental state after you finally left church? After you finally decided mentally this isn't for me, your wife and all that. How was that?
at first I cared a lot about taking them down, and I think I tried to do anything in my uh, ability and power to help people out, even if it was just a word, just to motivate. If I knew a victim, I would
Yeah.
100% the victim. I'm with you. You want to go to the authorities? Like I'll go with you. Uh, that was my mentality. But I mean, a lot of people, even if you do that, they still won't do it, right? And that's okay. That's cool. It's all about support. But I think I understand now that I don't need to care. It's not. How do I put it? It's very hard. I think I was putting a lot of energy into it for the first few years, from like 2017 to like even a year or 2 years ago, 2020, 2021. So I would say the first few years I put a lot of strength to it. It got to the point where just waiting for the court dates, I just didn't care anymore. Like I focus more on just myself. I still try to help anyone that comes to me. I'll say whatever I can say. There's not much I can do. I'm just a guy. But I realize that we are important. I'm important. You're important. We're all important. What we say and what we do is important. But we don't need to stress about it. Like I can't live in fear my whole life, thinking that these people are going to come for me. I can't live stressed out thinking that I'm the one that has to take them down. I feel like we're going to take them down whether we stress or not, because that's the way that life is. Things flow. So I'm still going to say what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to be traumatized about it. I'm not going to be stressed about it.
You're not going to let it identify you as it.
So that's me the first 4 years of this situation, and then that's me now the past year and a half, 2 years, and I'm feeling it a lot more now these past few weeks. I'm talking to my friends and I just say, yeah, I mean, we're still gonna take them down, but I'm not as stressed anymore. It's not me, it's all of us. It's whoever else wants to say something. I already did my part. I'm satisfied. We have a lot of projects, small and large projects that we put together. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. Some of them still are not exposed or out there. But then once people see them, hopefully they will motivate people. I think that's the most important thing. It's what we do. It's always going to motivate somebody else, whether we think about it or not. Somebody motivated me, or maybe I motivated myself. Doesn't matter. I end up interacting with somebody else, and that person processes whatever, and then says, "I gotta say something, or I gotta help, or I gotta get out of here." Or whatever, you don't.
That goes a long way. Because I remember we would have conversations way back when I started doubting. I didn't know you were already out at this time. But again, like I told you earlier, you were the guy that I looked up to. I'm like, hey, if I had any questions when it came to the doctrine, I'd be like, Dario, I can trust. I can tell and express to him all these questions, doubts that might seem at the time for a church, for the mind of an LDM member, be like, hey, that's too far. You shouldn't be talking about that. But I had that trust to ask you and tell you, hey, why is this part of the doctrine? Why does this not make sense? And 2018 for me was when I started really. I had already questioned a lot, especially 2014, but I had to shut that down. And 2018 came around, and that's when I would ask. We would talk.
Yeah, I called you while I was doing all that whole investigation, and I was venting and all that. I remember I would call you a lot. I would call a lot of my friends, not to convince anybody of anything.
Not to convince.
I was just trying to play
that separation. You weren't calling to be like, hey,
play tennis with y'all, mentally.
Yeah.
And I was just trying. You guys are my friends, so I felt like we could communicate. We could do it then. Why can't we do it now?
Yeah.
And sadly, that's not the case for a lot of people. A lot of people just don't want to talk to us at all. So that's another very heavy part to this conversation. That as some of the people that are watching this might know, my family doesn't talk to me. My siblings have kids. I don't even know their names. Actually, I know one of them. My brother just named his kid after Nathan Merari, because Nathan said so. But there's other kids. I don't really know them. I've never met them. My dad goes around Provincia telling everybody that I'm dead to him. I'm at peace with it, honestly. I feel like no matter where you're born in this world, there's going to be some hardships, And if you don't learn here, I always tell people, if you don't learn here, you're going to learn somewhere else. So my story is not the happiest story out there, but at the end of the day, I'm still me, And that's what matters. Like, why would I stay in a place where I'm not allowed to be me and ask my questions and
express yourself?
So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at now. I'm also at peace with everything, and the fact that people have cut us off. It's very logical, from whatever angle you want to look at it. It is a cult. they're gonna make people cut people off.
I think we need to make my time in church. I didn't really understand what cults were. All I thought a cult was right. I think
Yeah,
we had a conversation. I don't know about you, but I thought that a cult was one of those you got to do like almost like a satanic ritual kind of stuff. That to me was a cult back then. I didn't know that not just in churches, but even in work environments and others, anywhere, anything could be a cult. And the fact that a church like this can operate as to be honest, a very efficient cult because they have a lot of members around, not just in Mexico and the United States, but a couple of other countries too. With they say 5 million, but I think the number is closer to 1 million. But that's still impressive enough that how strong mind controlling a cult can be without us realizing what a cult really is, at least back in the time. And that's why when you said that people started calling you crazy for calling it a cult, it's because they don't understand what a cult is, at least at the time. I didn't understand it until I started, just like you, investigating. I'm like, oh my God, I was in a cult. Holy shit, this is a cult. I didn't know. And then I start talking to my friends who are Gentiles, gentiles. And I remember having a conversation with one of them. They're like, oh yeah, we knew you were in a cult all the way back in middle school. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. I've gotten that conversation from a couple of friends too. I think that something that's important regarding this is that programming and mind control is everywhere, not just in religious cults.
Correct.
I know a lot of people that have left LLDM and have joined other cults, and they
Yeah.
have no idea, and they're very proud. They're very proud. They go around, saying, "Hi, I'm this now. I'm that." It's
Man,
very
I've
sad.
seen it on the comments on my video. They're like, oh, thank God I left this cult, LDM. Now I go to such and such name of a church. And I'm like,
It just
bro, that's another cult. You
it
just
just
left the cult to go to another cult.
even if it's not a cult, like I said, mind control and programming exists outside of religious
Yes.
cults. And I'm gonna add something, even outside of cults in general. Like a cult is something specific, whether it's political, religious, business, whatever. It's a thing. But outside of that, there's also all these tools, that they used against us there to keep
Hmm.
us down. Governments do that. Just societies do that. And I'm not saying I'm 100% free, but it does make me really sad that as soon as people leave, this specific religious cult and just any in general, I hear them. They're like, yeah, but thanks to God this, thanks to God. Okay, like how do you even know there is that God, like that specific one you're talking about? Like how do you even know? That I just know, I just feel like what are you talking about? Like do the work. I have nothing against religion. I have nothing against like anybody's ideas in general. They're, anyone is free to say whatever they want and think whatever they want. But you haven't even done the work. You're just buying somebody else's prepackaged idea, because you're lazy. I'm just to be frank. I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easy. Because it's okay. Why can't you do your own work? That's something that I told myself. I was like, and maybe I'm a hypocrite. Maybe I haven't done it. How much can a human really do that? How much can I reteach myself? How much can I, I don't know. I think that's just an important question. But anyway, just at least regarding religion, because it hurt us so much, I would be careful. I would tread carefully. I wouldn't just jump into another one or keep some of this. And a lot of people keep some of it. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna remove the apostle and LDM, but I'm still Christian. Do you know anything about Christianity? Do you know anything about Judaism? Do you know anything about Islam? Do you know anything? The truth is that you don't really know. Like you just read the book, you just go online, you just watch a video, watch a movie, and you believe it because you're afraid, or because it's easy, because it makes you feel good. And what's beautiful to me in my experience is that I remember my mom asked me what I believed in. I said nothing, and she said, "How can you not be scared?" And I was like, "Scared of what? Like this is exciting. I don't know anything about religion. I don't know anything about talking about being secure about a belief or being secure about a path. Like I don't know anything. I can do my own path. I don't know shit about any gods. So why would I assume any gods? If I ever meet one or ever meet an alien or anything crazy like that, then I can say that this is my thing. I actually live this. This is my life, you know. And I try to apply that to everything, you know. Like, there's a lot of things. I mean, you know, my story, my life, other things that I don't want to talk about here. But there's a path for you in life that people say you have to go here, you have to go there, and this is how you get here. And you know, I've tried to skip a lot of steps that people say you have to do, and I'm doing it my own way. It's not even about skipping steps. It's like these steps are made up. You know, like you can get wherever you want if you work on yourself, and people see that you're talented, and people see that you're skilled, and people say that you see that you want things. So that just, you know, talking about very physical, common, you know, everyday things. But you're talking about religion and spiritual things that are supposed to be like super special and unachievable and whatever. Why would you buy the prepackaged set? You know, like it's so boring. You know, to me, I think it's.
Yeah.
I'm not. I hope there is some magical shit out there. You know, I hope there is, but I've never seen it. I've never really felt it. Like yes, there's a lot of magic in the world. Like I don't want to, you know, say there isn't, but I'm talking about the specifically this religion stuff, and you know, gods and all that. It's very sad, I think, to see people just leave the cult. But I think this is a life problem in general, and people in the all over the world do this, you know. Yeah. So I'm happy about my own path. I think it's been a very hard couple of years, but I'm free. I can make my own decisions. I can start fresh. So I'm really grateful, and I highly recommend it to anybody that wants to struggle. You know, struggle so that you can gain your freedom is definitely worth it. You know, you're not gonna be the first one. You're not gonna be the only one. It sure feels like it, because people don't talk about this stuff a lot. You know, I wish people did. I think we will find that we have this in common with a lot of people out there. You know, that finding your own path and, you know, starting fresh. Like a lot of times, no matter where you're from, your family is gonna be against it because of traditions. You know.
I was gonna ask, do you have a message for the people that are listening, that will listen to the video, to the ones that are still in church, the ones that are still in LLDM, and the ones that are confused, that have left or are questioning? Do you have a message for them?
I think the little rant that I just did, like
Yeah, I feel like it pretty
that's my
it's summed it up
that's my
nicely.
message to everybody. Like that's something that you've heard me say before. I say that to people. I live that. Just do your own thing. You know, you're not him, you're not her, you're not them. You're you. So why are you doing what they did? Like just because, you know, in the history of the world, everyone has done this thing or taken this path to get over there, doesn't mean you can't create your own lane and get there too, or get
Yeah.
somewhere else. It sounds, I don't know if it makes sense. You know, it's a lot. You know, I think it's a lot easier to just live it. But a lot of times I've noticed that when it comes to like advice, you can sit here. I sat here and told my friend or my cousin, don't do this because this is gonna happen, and he doesn't give a shit. He still does that shit. And then once he does it, he comes back like, oh, you were right. But it's like you have to live it. So at the end of the day, I don't even know if this is worth talking about. I hope that what I feel regarding my freedom experience in a way, like I don't know
Your story?
how free I really am. I don't know, but at least I'm aware where I'm still chained. You know, when it comes to other aspects of my life. Like I know I have a lot of chains around me, but at least I'm aware of them. You know, I'm looking at it and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get you off one day. I'm gonna get this one off one day. But I'm working towards it. You can't work towards something that you don't understand, I think. So I don't know.
I
I don't know.
completely agree.
I don't know if this advice is even like useful. I hope people experience it. Just experience things. Think for yourself. All this very cliche stuff. Like it really means something once you really live it. Yeah, I don't really have much to say besides that. It's just live your own life. If you come sit here and you want to live the generic Christian life, the generic LDM life, like you're not the first. Like, you know, there's millions and millions of people that have done it. You know, you think you're doing the right thing. You think you're gonna go somewhere, and I mean, I don't really know. If it's at the end of the day, and I sound crazy. Like, what does it really matter? Like, both them and me and others, we're gonna go to the same place. Like, we're all gonna die anyway. So I gotta throw that in there. Maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. But at least don't hurt people. You know, like like that's the sad thing about a lot of people, that they there's all this suffering going on in the world and all this hurt, uh, um, and they would just say it's okay because this is part of my prepackaged set of ideals, so it's okay for me to hurt people. Like, man, if you're gonna, follow a prepackaged idea, at least get that shit out of there. That I know they're not gonna do it. So again, I don't know how useful advice really is until you actually live it yourself. That's just my hope. It's more like a hope. I hope that people become more sensitive to other people's pain. I think if a lot of people paid attention to what happened here with the LDM, and they saw how much pain they've caused, not just me, but everyone that has been shunned, kicked out, and all these victims of so many different types of abuse, if people looked at them, they would understand that they're doing the wrong thing. It's one way or another. And they're not even taking the time to do that because they're like, I can't see that, can't see
Don't
that.
want to see it.
I have my prepackaged set of ideals said, don't look at that. Fuck your set of ideals then. Like, and at the end of the day, we're both gonna die. But it's like, at least I got peace. You can't really have peace if you're sitting there watching, while your leader is talking shit about everybody, calling everybody a cancer, and it's like, I don't know. I don't have a solution to a lot of things, but I have hope. I have hope that people will start being more sensitive.
Well, Dario, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing us your experience, your story, and I hope we could do this again sometime in the near future.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see how things turn out.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. I hope this conversation can help somebody. I'm not sure.
Guess what dice, what does the church say? At least one soul can be saved, moved. That's what they used to say.
That's real, man.
But it goes
you,
far.
You know how I like
So
I like
closer.
writing poetry and raps and all that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm trash. I mean, I'm good, but I'm also not, where I want to be. Like, I'm not, I'm not conceited about it. I try to stay grounded. So every now and then I will get somebody that's like, you said this, and I'm like, you actually heard this? Like, you actually heard, like, who listens
Yeah.
to my stuff? So that makes me feel like the hundreds of hours that I spent sitting there writing, have
It
been
was
worth
worth
it.
it.
And especially some people that have gone through a lot of the stuff that I talked about in my raps has been about the trauma in my life. And my life has been half of it, like I said, where
Yeah.
not now I'm 30, so now a third. It's not a half anymore. A third of my life was in LDM or in Guadalajara. Another third was in LDM in Atlanta. So it's still, it's 2/3 of my life we're still in LDM. So a lot of my poetry, a lot of my emotions, a lot of my outlook on the world did come from that lens, like everything that I suffered there. And I'm trying to get away from that and look at the bigger picture. But still, like that's reflected in my form of art, my form of expression. And sometimes I'll get somebody that has lived the most horrible things in that cult, and will say, I heard this made me cry. And that to me is worth, like, how a lot of people talk about streams and what's more important, and like
Yeah.
who has the most and who gets paid. Like, I don't, I'm starting to care more about money. Growing up, you know me. I've always said I don't care about money. I'm starting to understand now that it's a tool, so I don't hate it. I think I grew up hating it because especially these past few years, I saw how much it harm me does. But now I don't hate it. I don't love it and I don't hate it. But I'm still not, I don't worship it. So I know there's things that are more important than it. So to me, it's more important that somebody that has lived those things that I talk about, the abuse, comes to me and says, I cried when I heard this. I'm like, God damn, that's worth more than, anything anyone could give me. It's worth more than money. It's worth more than streams. And it makes me feel worth something. It makes me feel heard. So yeah, same thing with this video, with the time that we're taking. If one person watches this and says, I learned something, it's gonna help me out, it's worth it. I mean, it's 1 hour. We spend 1 hour here. If 1 hour can change 10, 20, 30 years of somebody's life, I hope it does. And now that I care about money, I mean, maybe these people will pay us, but I'm just kidding. Nah, you should cut that out. Nah, I really don't care about that. I really do. I mean,
Hey.
honestly, honestly,
Tengo
part of
mis
me,
seguidores. I got my followers. I can ask 10%. I'll ask 9.99%. I'll be just right under church's diezmo requirements.
honestly, it's this like I feel like nobody really ever helped me, you know. So that's what part of me I always ask myself, why do you help people? Why do you care so much? Like I don't know if I'm just nuts, but I don't know if I'm bitter, but nobody really helped me, you know. When it comes to processing things, that's what I'm talking about. Like processing the cult, religion, all that. I don't remember one person that sat there and did this, you know. Maybe I'm not being grateful. Maybe there were influences, but I can't think of these. So it's that's very strange for me when people say, "Oh, you helped me," or "Avisa helped me," or "This person helped me." And I'm like, "Man, help yourself." So I really hope. Again, I'm gonna try to be an asshole. I hope first of all that nobody has a need for this, that people can help themselves. But if it's cool, you know,
It's
if this is what it
nice.
takes, we're all different, I guess. I don't
I
know.
want to get into that psyche just for a second, because I also feel the same way. I felt the same way when I was in church. Like the reason why I was in choir, that was like for you was preaching, and you did choir too. I preached here and there. I took prayers, but for me, choir was like my lane. It was like, man, I love this. And for me, it felt like I was helping not only the church members to get lit up, but also the ones that were listening, the visitors. So there was always that for me that I loved helping in my time in church. And
Yeah.
now that I'm out from it, it still feels like a part of me. It wasn't, maybe
Maybe that's
there's
you know what
part from church.
somebody has told me that before. Somebody said that's still part of my program to try to help people. But the new me or whatever the other me, it's like kind of like why are you wasting your time? Like you know like literally, it feels like such a thankless job. You know like everything I've done this past 6 years. That's why I always tell you I feel like I should have done it, and I feel like I should do whatever I do for myself first of all,
Yeah.
because I don't want to feel empty. I don't want to feel like nobody cares about me, like nobody's grateful, and this is not just about me. Just I feel like anyone that has done anything in general to help this cause, I've heard them and I've spoken to them, and they all feel like alone. You know, they feel like nobody cares about them. So, and yet we're still trying to help. You know, maybe it is, you know, the programming a little bit. Maybe it is that we think we're good in the trying to do the right thing. But I hope that better things come because like I said, the world doesn't work the way that we think or that we
No.
were thought that it does. In order to create a bigger movement and in order to really change the world or reality, we're gonna need that tool. We're gonna need money. We're gonna need some influence, some power. And I'm not talking about negative power. Power is not bad. It's just the way you use it. So if I can put myself in a position of power, a position of influence, I'm gonna try to make the world a better place. And if I don't do it, I hope you do it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was trying. I know I sound like a bit of an asshole, but I really hope that one day one of us, someone close to us, can do more. And that people can support them. It's not about the money. It's about the support. And I hope. I posted. I was also helping with a different subreddit. It was what was it, cult survivors that actually went to shit, but that's another story. Um, when I first posted my story there, a bunch of people just came out of nowhere saying, "How can we support you? What can we do?" Like, and I was like, "I don't know." This was a couple of years ago, but now looking back, I'm like, I think we gotta come to the point where we're not just me, all of us, where we're not afraid to ask for help. Like, if I ever meet a guy or a person that has enough funding to help us reshape, the world in a way that we think is needed, we should do it. But we've been too humble our whole life. That's just some food for thought for myself, and I guess for both of us for later. Like, I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but we gotta stop being so humble. Like we're like, no, we don't like money, we don't like power. No, like actually, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I want it, but I'm gonna use it properly. I'm not gonna use it to exploit others. I don't believe in slavery. I don't believe in mistreating people. I don't believe in taking advantage of people. But if I work for it, why can't I have it? Like, we got so many dumbasses in power all over the world. So, I would rather have you do it. I would rather have myself do it. So that's that's pretty much that's pretty much where I'm at now.
I think
Keep
that's a good
working.
message for the ones that were in church and were very active, the ones that really
Yeah,
helped out. I think it's very prevalent amongst us
people
who,
grow. I want to see people, not just LDM. Like, we gotta change. I have kids. I have a kid. You know, like I might have more. Like I don't know. You might have kids, and it's like we're already in a better situation. But there's a lot of things in the world that worry me a lot. You know, not just the cult. And like I said, there's programming everywhere. I'm definitely gonna try to teach my kid to point that out and to be able to steer away from it. You know. So yeah, I think we're good for today. Hopefully, like we said, this is helpful for some people, and if they're not able to support us, hopefully they can support somebody. You know, I really do feel like the people that suffered the most in this case, in the LDM case, haven't received much help.
No.
So if you watch this, and you don't have to do it through me. Like I don't have a bank account set up. I don't have an idea of how to help them. But if you have it, like, you know, in your heart and in your mind that you want to do something for them, or you want to help victims in general, where we came from, like, do it by yourself. You don't need me to do it. You know, you don't need any of us. Just do it, and I think that would be cool. You know, I used to have an idea, like, maybe somebody should start like a Professor X type of situation, like a school or a place where people could find safety. You know, it's just an idea, but I hope somebody does something like that just for survivors in general. People, not everyone's situation is the same. You know, there's been murders in there, there's been kidnappings, there's been rapes. So not everyone leaves and just has to find a new apartment to move to. Some people are literally being, you know,
held against their own will.
So I don't know, like if you can do something, do it. You know, that would be pretty cool to see. So when I made that joke about money, I'm not talking about me. Like everyone that knows me knows I've never asked for anything. There's a lot of people here in this community that have asked for money and have taken advantage of people. I'm not with that. I am gonna try to get some money and get some power for myself so that I can help people, and hopefully you guys.
Sorry about that, guys. My phone, my laptop, turned off. We even get to. We're heading already toward the our conclusion. I think I just want to thank you for the time, for the opportunity. Thank you for your time and for expressing telling us your story, your experience, your thoughts. You're a great friend. I'm very thankful for having you in my life, having you around during the times I had my questions, and you not being pushy on it, allowing me to be okay with questioning. Was pretty. If I look back and think about it, was a big setup for me. I mean, it's like you said earlier. At the end of the day, it was it's you who ends up questioning it. And I was fortunate enough for me to be able to bounce up these ideas I couldn't tell nobody, or at least questions, and have it bounce to you. So I know your story, at least back in the day, just having you around helped me in that regard. And I hope in this video can help out at least one person as well.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I hope everyone out there is safe and does what's best for them. You know, that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you, Dario, and we'll talk later.
Yeah.
You take care, all right?
Bye. Peace.
Man.